Hello and welcome, bookworms. Welcome to this week's episode of the Contented Narrative. We were looking at Knife by R.J.Anderson. So this is a series of books. This is the first one in the series, and it follows a little fairy called Bryony, who then sort of names herself Knife, who lives in an oak at the end of this garden of this house. And she's basically the youngest of all the fairies, and for the fairies to create a new fairy, essentially when they die, an egg or a baby fairy is created from the death of the older one, and off the back, but it's not always the case. Sometimes the older fairies just die and there's no little one to replace them, and all of the fairies in this tree are all female. So Bryony's obviously growing up with this and being like, why is this happening? Because she's trying to figure out, like, you know, why, like, are there any other fairy like colonies out there? If we're out there, who else is out there? Are there male fairies? Are there female, like just female fairies? Like, what happened? When did this start? And obviously, as most people are aware, when you have like an inquisitive fairy or an inquisitive child, there's not really much that you can do to put them off. So essentially, she then starts exploring more and more outside of the oak, and she makes friends with Paul. So Paul is the little boy that has come to live with the people that live in that building, and it's really sweet because essentially he's then going, I want to figure out. So he doesn't want to rip the wings off. He doesn't want to destroy them. He wants to figure out as well what's happened. So together they start investigating, together they start looking at like different like areas, they start, you know, having a think, they start reading like lore and doing a little bit of investigating work. Now, essentially we sort of figure out that there was a curse put on them, and the queen came back too late to fix this curse. So this is basically what they've been living with. They've been living with this curse. So this is setting up the series for Bryony and Paul to go and investigate this curse and to try and get it lifted, to try and figure out what's happening, and see if they can build their lives together, because obviously work in harmony. And honestly, I love this book series. I really do. And I think over the period of this channel, I might, you know, sort of read the rest of them for you and let you know the reviews and everything. But obviously, I know that some people, when they start like reading a book or whatever, they just want to read the book. They don't want to read a book series because it's too much for them. And sometimes if you don't have the time, one book is better than 7, 8, however many. But I would say these are such easy books to read. I mean, it's considered young adult, but sometimes I prefer the young adult. And the reason why I prefer the young adult is simply because with young adult, it's not as smutty sometimes, if you know what I mean. So sometimes it's just a good story because they're going for that audience. So I mean, there's no shame in what you read. I still read kids books. Do you know what I mean? I've reviewed kids books on this channel before. You know, the Roald Dahls and Lorax and the Wishing Chair collection and all of those, and Narnia's. But I thoroughly loved this book series. I keep going back to it. I think the characters are really good. I love the fact that you know how it's going to go when you've got an inquisitor, because anyone who's a parent out there, anyone that has younger siblings, anyone that has a young child around them at any point will know that when that child goes through the inquisitive stage to try and figure out how things work, if you don't know the answer, that child will either drive you insane for you to find the answer, or will themselves find the answer. And I love that they paired obviously the fairy up with the human. You see like some magic going on, but it's not a lot, because again the magic is kind of, there's not a lot left of the magic for these fairies. And I think it's just a lovely way of telling a story, and it's like an adventure story, a little bit of a love story, sort of like a detective story, you know, a mystery as well, that it's just everything in it. And it leaves you, and when you're reading it, it leaves you wanting more, but in a good way. So it doesn't leave you wanting more because you're like, oh my God, like, what the hell? It leaves you wanting more by going, oh, I want to know more about these characters. Because you and I both know that what happens is when you finish reading a book, sometimes you sit there and you go, okay, that's fine. That book is that book. Don't need to know anymore. But sometimes you finish the book and you go, oh, I need to know what happened to this person. I need to know what happened to that person. I need to know what, like, you know, and I feel like this sets up the series perfectly, because I know, and I've said it before on previous videos, that sometimes when they're setting up a series, the world building takes over the character development. And you do see this in like fantasy books sometimes, that sometimes they're trying so hard to build up this picture of this world that you lose the plot and you lose the character to a point. Whereas this is sort of like, because it's set in England, you can imagine already the house, the oak, the big trees, like, you know, you can already imagine all of that. So there's no big world building, which I think helps the character development and the story development a lot more. I mean, obviously, do whatever you want to do to give it a read. I would definitely say, though, do give it a read. It was so enjoyable for me, and as I said, I will reread. You've convinced me. I will reread the rest of the series over the coming years. Over the coming years, and I will review on the channel. But honestly, thank you so much for your continued support, guys, because we've reached over 280 subscribers, and considering I've been doing this for about 5 years now, because I started sort of like COVID time, so maybe 4 years, this continued support means so much to me. So thank you so much. Keep sharing the channel around, keep sharing the videos. Let me know if there's books that you think I'm missing or I should be reading. Let me know if there's book series that I've started but I've not reviewed the rest of them, and you want to know sort of like what my thoughts are. But honestly, thank you so much for continuing to interact. Leave comments below on the videos. Let me know what you love to read. Let me know if you've got a comfort book that you keep going back to. I would honestly love to know. But thank you so much, and remember to always keep it contento.